check it out, check it out.
Wait, what? I love being black.
What's poppin', nieces and nephews? It's your favorite neighborhood black girl. We back, and we black, and we back, and we black, hey! Happy Black History Month. We're keeping the vibes going. So today I wanted to talk about my personal favorite black-led TV shows and movies, and kind of have a discussion about Hollywood and why representation is so important to people that look like me, talk like me, act like me. And I'm gonna kind of do it just like I did the playlist video. I've picked five movies and 5 TV shows that were important to me personally to talk about, but I'm gonna throw each, like, all the TV shows and all the movies up on the screen just so that you guys can see what kind of impacted my life and, you know, is something that, like, is important to me, and we can kind of compare and contrast what movies that you may have seen as a kid and, like, what movies I may not have seen as a kid. But I wanted to also say, with that being said, this is definitely a conversation that is constantly ongoing, and I know that I'm just one person. I'm not going to change the dynamics of Hollywood on my own, but the more we talk about it, the more people are willing to listen or not listen. I don't know. But we're just going to get right into it. We're going to start with TV shows. The first TV show up is one of my all-time favorite black TV shows to ever exist. And it means more to me now than it did when I was a kid, because I wasn't very old when it first came on TV. But it's Living Single. Check it out, check it out. What you want, girlfriend, cause it's your world. That is the show that part of my intro is from. And that show itself has done so much for me now, because it's crazy to me to watch a show where there's 4 successful, beautiful black women living in expensive ass Manhattan, just getting a bag and playing these men. Like, they just, it's the show that gave me one of my all-time favorite characters to ever exist, Maxine Shaw, Ride to Maverick. She was an attorney with dreads on top of that did her fucking job and just kept it pushing. She always had a man. And you have people like Khadijah motherfucking James, editor-in-chief, owner of Flavor magazine. She had her own business and she didn't let anybody save her. She was like, I started this on my own. I'm gonna make it work on my own. Got Regine, bougie ass Regine. She was doing her fashion thing. She always had a man. She could have a man see another man, take that man, leave her other man, and then get with a new man within like 10 minutes. That's skill. Who's doing it like her? You got Sweet Sinclair, who was just my first time seeing like somebody quirky and like goofy and kind of ditzy on TV, but still very smart, still very successful, was still able to bag Overton Wakefield Jones. And they were just 4 best friends that always had each other's backs, but understood the respect and love that they needed without making the other ones feel like, this is how you should live your life. If I see another fucking person on the internet talking about somebody give us the black version of Friends, it's Living Single, and Living Single existed before Friends. They took Living Single and made Friends. They said, give me this show but make it white. The next show I want to talk about is a show that's very important to my heart for a goofy smart kid like me. A Different World. A Different World, first of all, spiked college applications for the black community by so much. It was literally insane. Like, black kids finally felt like, oh, I can do this college thing. I can be smart but still be black. a lot of this community, especially like growing up when I was younger, not so much now, but I mean it still exists now, whether you go to like a PWI or HBCU, there's a lot of that now. But like growing up for me, a lot of people associated being smart and articulate and intelligent with being like wanting to be white. And I think A Different World was a show that showed the black community, you can be intelligent, you can be smart as fuck and still be black. Like that doesn't take your blackness away. And it was like insane to watch one of the greatest love stories for me to this day, Dwayne and Whitley. You just got every type of black to me on that show. You got Dwayne, that was literally a genius, and he was in tech. Whitley, who didn't, she was a silver spoon, didn't know what she wanted to do, just went to college because it was paid for, but ended up becoming like one of the biggest like art buyers. You had Kim that wanted to be a doctor. You had Cree Summer. You had Cree Summer's character. I can't think of her name right now. I'm slacking. But you had her character that changed her major so much and then finally decided within like their last year what she wanted to do. And you had Ron. Nobody knew what Ron was doing, but he was there. He was there. He technically never failed out of college. He might have, I don't remember. But he technically never failed out of college. And then you had like, in the later seasons, you had Jada Pinkett Smith's character who came in and was really taken under their wings, and like they helped groom her into being the person that she was on the show. And it was a show that was special to me because I watched it when I got to like college age, and I was like, see, this is it, they get it, this is what it is. But you still got the hardships, and you got to see what it was like to be black, and you got to see the colorist battle play out on camera, but it wasn't negative all the time. And I think that that's what's special about shows like A Different World and Living Single, that you got stereotypes, but it wasn't constant. It wasn't constantly in your face like negative stereotype after negative stereotype after negative stereotype. It was, we do these things sometimes, but that doesn't define us. Next show I want to talk about, what I've literally, like, this is the second that I watched the first season, I fell in love with this show. And I've never seen people complain and bitch about a show not being on TV as much as I see people complain and bitch about this show not being on TV. Insecure. Issa Rae is a genius. She is a genius. Like, people are not, nobody is doing it like her. She took a YouTube series and made it into one of the biggest TV shows on television to this day. Insecure did something for my age group. You have somebody like Issa who thought she knew what she wanted to do, and now she's just like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to change. Like, this isn't inspiring me like it used to when I was younger. And it really shows you like life comes at you fast, and sometimes the things you thought you wanted to do isn't what you wanted to do, and there's no point in trying to sit there and pretend like you're happy when you're not. So just do what you need to do to make things good for yourself. You get the real, like real friendship dynamics where friends fight, and even though you fight, you still gonna be there for your friend at the end of the day. You know, you get the different levels of being black, because you have characters like Molly who works in a white dominated field, but it's still very well respected. She can give you the customer service voice because she asks out in the next 2 seconds, and you're gonna be like, whoa, the switch up. She is versatile. It's not fake, it's versatility. Know your audience. And I think that's why characters like Molly are important, because she's somebody that knows her audience. It's just like you get a lot of like relationship up and downs, but it's real. It's not these like, oh, they lived happily ever after, but it's also not he's beating her or she's beating him every 10 seconds. It's just people that get sick and tired of each other's bullshit and is like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And you get to see some like Issa just not being able to make decisions and who she wants and being indecisive. That's real. That's real relationships right there. Finally had a show that we can sit there and say, oh, what character are you? Oh, you're totally an Issa. Stop playing. You are not a Molly, you're an Issa. These next 2 shows in particular that I'm gonna talk about are like 2 of maybe 10 black TV shows for kids on when I was growing up and currently, there's not that many, and it makes me really sad to think that like a lot of kids grow up without seeing themselves or any version of themselves or their community on television, because it just makes you feel like you're not important, like you mean nothing, like you are nothing. You are not important enough to be represented and to get excited when you see somebody on TV that looks like you. But next TV show I wanted to talk about is That's So Raven is important to the community, and let me tell you why. Because That's So Raven was a show that you had a 2-parent household that loved each other. They had ups and downs, but they loved each other and they did what they needed to do and what was best for their kids. They loved Raven for her psychic abilities and taught her that like no matter what, that's who you are. Don't let anybody take that from you. On top of that, you had Victor, who owned his own restaurant, and you had Tanya, who was going to school to be a lawyer, but she was also a teacher. And then you have freaking badass Quarry, which Quarry is an icon of my generation because he taught us all, first rule of money, never use your own. Then you had Raven, who was smart. She loved fashion and she made a lot of her own clothes. That's creativity, that's talent. You got the bully storyline, and I think that was something that was important because a lot of the time we're portrayed as the mean ones, and that like we're the ones being the bullies, we're the ones doing the hating, and it's like a lot of the time that's not the case. There's people, what about the people that are being mean to us? And I thought that was cool because you got that storyline on Raven. But Raven also was like one of the first Disney Channel shows to like take risks about talking about important topics like racism and trying to get a job and not being offered that job because you're a black person, or the topic of stealing, or just talking about black history in a sense of it not just being about the same 4 people that they constantly talk about when they talk about black history. And it was one of those shows, like for me growing up, Raven is the reason that I love fashion so much. I be taking risks. I'm like, what would Raven Baxter do? And the show was so iconic that it came back, and it's back on TV now, and it's her as an adult, and her life isn't butterflies and rainbows, and I love that they still let her be a real person instead of giving us the fantasy storyline. The next show that I want to talk about is The Proud Family. Again, one of very little amounts of kids shows that portray a black family. Again, a 2-parent household. You had like the fun stay-at-home mom and Trudy, but she was tough, she was stern, she was still a regular mom, you know what I'm saying? Don't be playing these games. And then you got Oscar, the overprotective dad that had his own business too. And then you got Penny Prowse, fast ass. I dare forget she kissed 15 Cent in the car while listening to Janae Aiko. Listening to Janae Aiko in a car with a boy, it's never good. It's never good to this day. But The Proud Family was also one of those shows that took a risk at talking about tough topics. We got an episode about racism. We got an episode about black history. We got an episode about Kwanzaa. And you also got to see the different types of black to me, because you got Dejanay and Sticky, who were kind of more of your stereotypical, like how blacks are portrayed on TV. And then you had Penny, who was like, I get good grades, like I ain't out here playing. But there's little things on the show that they be letting slide, like La Cienega gonna need her ass beat. The show was versatile. Like, it was funny, but it was serious, and they talked about so many things that like kids nowadays definitely need to hear and need to understand. And that's what's so disappointing about the fact that these kids nowadays don't have shows that, one, portray characters that look like them, but two, aren't giving you any type of show that's giving you serious topics. And when they do, they get canceled, because parents nowadays and networks nowadays are constantly like, kids don't need to hear this shit. No, kids do need to hear this shit, because it's happening to them. It is happening to them before their eyes. That's why there's so many kids that are no longer here, and it needs to be talked about. I don't care. It needs to be talked about. Obviously, say it in a way that a kid can understand. Don't just come at them with like hard facts. But it's like Raven and the Proud Family, they gave us these facts and this seriousness without it being like, woo, that's a little much. But they did it for the age group that was watching the show, and that's why those two shows are extremely important to the community. The last but definitely not least show that I want to talk about is a show that's not an all-black cast, but it does have black leads, and this show is extremely important, and I'll explain to you why this show is important. But it's on my block and it's on Netflix, and I know a lot of people would probably argue that it's more of a Hispanic show, but there's two black leads on this show, and there's a whole storyline that is unraveling before your eyes that I feel like a lot of people aren't picking up on. But on my block, two black leads, you got Monse and you have Jamal, and I really want to focus more on Jamal because, one, they're in high school. Half the block is the Hispanic gang and the other half of the block is the black gang, and they're living in the midst of all of this mess as children. Like, they've seen so much as kids, and I think that this storyline is so important because there's a lot of kids like me, there's like my friends, there's people that I know that grew up in the midst of all of that, and nobody's telling our stories, but we can still function and be normal. We're not fragile, but it's like these kids are also at the same time still trying to be better and make a name for themselves and not get distracted by all that. And I think that that's what's important, is that you're watching black people succumb to that lifestyle, thinking that there's nothing better out there for me than the gang life, the drug life, the killer life. And you've got people like Monse and Jamal that are like, we're smart, we're straight A students, we're doing what we need to do, we want to go to college. Monse is like, I love to write, I love to do this. Jamal is like, I'm doing my thing, I'm a good kid, I don't do anything wrong. But you also, with Jamal, yes, he has a two-parent household, but you get the storyline of like his parents wanting him, especially with black boys. It's like sports is important to black families with black sons. Like, they're like, you gotta play sports, you gotta play the basketball, you gotta play the football, like you gotta be a sports kid, otherwise you're not gonna be anything, nobody's gonna want you. And that's not the case. Jamal is like, I don't know, I'm not doing that, that's dangerous, I'm not getting hurt. And you see him show these dancer abilities and stuff like that on the show. He's so smart. And then you have Monse's character, who lives in a one-person household, and her mom walked out on her. And I think that that's a special storyline, because it's usually the dad walking out on the kid and not the mom, and you get to see the mom leave her and start a whole ass other family without her. And it's not taken in consideration that there are black dads out there that raise their kids, that love their kids, that want to see their kids succeed and just want to raise them to be the best kids that they can be. And I think those are two storylines that are extremely important. And the number one thing that I love about this show is that, especially about Jamal's character, is that the other characters all on the show tend to have a grown-up mentality. Things are constantly happening to them, and they're always like, I have to be mature, and I have to be an adult, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. And then you have Jamal, who's still 14. he's a child. He still acts like a child. He's so lighthearted and witty and just airy and just like everything's like funny. Like, you guys aren't listening to me. Like, and everybody else is so worried about the next thing that's gonna happen, and Jamal's like, guys, we're still 14. Like, let's do things that 14-year-olds do while still understanding that bad things are happening around them, but like they don't have to succumb to that. And I think that that's why a show like On My Block is important for our community, regardless of the facts, you know? Those are the 5 TV shows that I wanted to talk about and why they're important to me and why I think they're important to like the community in a sense. On top of that, of wanting to talk about my favorite Black-led, Black ensemble TV shows and movies, I wanted to talk about why this whole topic as a whole is important and why it matters. Is because representation is something that we lack, and it's sad that we still have to have this conversation in 2020. I consulted a whole ass other person to concoct these 2 lists, and it was still hard to do. The way that it's difficult to think of Black-led TV shows and movies off the top of your head that aren't the stereotypical ones that play on TV every single day. Like, are you dumb? That is unfair, and it's a whole other topic to talk about Black-led TV shows where the characters aren't just light-skinned with 3D curls, and that's something I'll get into in another video. The way that Black people have to work very hard just to even be casted, let alone have Hollywood give them a space to be created, because we can create so much more TV, so much more film if you just let us be. Stop trying to do us better than us. You can't do Black better than Black. And that's what's frustrating, is the way that Black people just want to have a safe space to be creative and grow, and white people get so defensive over weird shit like that. It's just like, we are just doing our thing. We just want to be funny. We just want to be sensitive. We want to be dramatic in a way that's not harmful to our own community. I'm tired of seeing these movies and TV shows that are harmful to Black women, that are portraying Black men as evil or bad in a way that the Black kids are constantly the bully. They're the token funny friend. They're the crackhead. They're the prostitute. I'm tired of it. We can be more. We can be the doctor. We can be the lawyer. We can be the businesswoman, the businessman, the CEO. We can be the superhero. We can be all of that, and Hollywood just won't let us. And that's what's disappointing. Like I said, there aren't many TV shows on nowadays for kids that have Black leads. It doesn't exist. And if I'm missing something, please let me know, because I would love to see shows that didn't come out in the early 2000s that are Black-led, that are still on, that didn't get canceled after 2 seasons. It's just like, you have people like Issa Rae that want to create the Black version of 90210, or give us new TV shows and new movie ideas. But I'm gonna end this video right here before I like start throwing hands at the non-existent white people in my room right now. Just remember though, you ain't got a lot of kicking. If you got a lot of kicking, you wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you can get notified whenever I post this month, because I'm going crazy out here. Let me know in the comments if you've watched any of the movies or the TV shows that I mentioned. Let me know in the comments if I missed any important movies or TV shows. Also, let me know in the comments how your Black History Month is going. Y'all being Black out here? I hope so. Make these white people mad. That's all I got to say. And I'll see y'all back in another one, in another one, in another one, in another one. Bye.
I think I'm magical. I'm Black and I'm beautiful. I just went natural. Yo, bitch think I'm beautiful. I look like Rudy Huxtable. They be like, who the fuck are you?